Hello, good morning. Today we'll be speaking about Crash Flight 751. There are a couple major aspects involved in this plane crash. Flight 751 was scheduled to leave the airport in Sweden to go to Denmark. On this particular night, it was snowing heavily, which caused a short delay. Following procedure, the pilot instructed the technicians to de-ice the plane using the required de-icing liquid. Within a couple seconds of the flight, loud noises could be heard coming from the engine. The pilot reduced the torque, but the throttle increased. Within a couple seconds, the engine shut off and the plane started descending, falling at a rate of 1,200 feet per minute. The pilot then tried to restart the engine, which then led to the engine catching fire. The pilot was then faced with a decision as to whether or not to engage the extinguisher, and in the end he did engage the extinguisher. However, when he engaged the extinguisher, he eliminated any chance of getting the engine restarted again. The APU was then started, but the unit refused to work. The cabin regained power. The main aim of the pilot and the crew was to find a safe spot to land that would cause the minimum amount of damage. In the end, the pilot landed the plane safely. There were no fatalities, however, a lot of people were injured. Some facts to note about the plane crash. The plane was designed with the engines behind the wing. Usually the engines are placed below the wing. The positioning of this engine made it susceptible to contact with ice and other objects flying from the wing of the plane. The cabin door was left open during the course of the accident, and a pilot who was a passenger joined the crew. This is a picture showing the design of the plane. Please note that the engines are behind the wing, and where usually the engine would be below the wing. So this is how the ice left the wing and flew into the engine. A lot of information was retrieved during the course of the investigation. It was found that a surge caused by ice flew into the blades of the engine. This ice originated from the wing of the plane. During takeoff, the transparent ice flew into the engine, causing deformation of the blades, which then led to the surge. During the surge, a correct procedure was to reduce the power by decreasing the throttle. This was done, but the system in place automatically increased the throttle. This system was known as ATR. This is a picture showing the crash site. As you can see, the plane broke into 3 pieces. The first communication breach occurred when the pilot and air hostess. During the incident, the air hostess tried to call the cockpit, but he noticed the call but did not answer. A second communication breach was the inability of the flight crew to communicate the initial problem with the engines to the crew at the airport. Another communication breach was the lack of communication between the builders of the plane and the airline. A new system was introduced without the knowledge of the pilots. Due to this addition, the plane behaved differently than the pilots were accustomed. Yet another breach of communication was a conference that was held by the airlines immediately following the crash. Some ethical breaches included the pilots were not trained to identify and correct surges, and the ATR was used without SAS's knowledge. This system eventually led to the plane crash. The impacts of these breaches on the final outcome of the incident were quite major. Some of these include the insufficient de-icing of the plane. Though the pilot instructed the technicians, it was not done sufficiently, and the ice flew into the engine, causing the entire accident. Another impact of this breach was the automatic thrust restoration. The purpose of this was to increase the thrust when flying over residential areas, but including this caused the accident in a major way. Yet another impact was the pilots not being trained to deal with surges, granted that surges are a major occurrence.